I just found out my wife's affair with our lawyer cost us $500, $0 in property, and now she's suing me to steal it all. She played me the whole time while we were fighting over a will I never knew she forged. I never thought I'd be the guy whose wife would turn out to be a lying, cheating bitch. Honestly, I thought we had a good thing going. Married for 8 years, 2 kids, a nice house, decent jobs. She was always a little high maintenance, but I figured it was just her personality. She could be bitchy and manipulative, sure, but I thought that was just her way of keeping control. Turns out she was playing me the whole time. The craziest part, I found out she'd been screwing our lawyer, Jake, for months. That's right, our lawyer. The guy we trusted with our wills, our assets, everything. And she did it all behind my back, lying to my face every time I asked if everything was okay. It started with little things. Phone started ringing at odd hours, and she'd quickly hide it or get defensive if I asked who was calling. She'd brush off my questions, saying it was just work or a friend. But I caught her looking at her phone more and more, typing fast, hiding messages. She'd get these weird, secretive smiles when she thought I wasn't paying attention. I'd catch her in lies about where she was or who she was with. It was like she was trying to cover something up, but I didn't want to believe it. I kept telling myself she was just stressed or busy with work. I mean, she's a lawyer too, so I thought maybe she was just working late or had a lot on her plate. Then one night I came home early from work. I wasn't feeling well, so I decided to surprise her. When I walked in, I heard noises coming from the bedroom. My stomach sank. I opened the door and saw her in bed with Jake, our lawyer. They were half naked, tangled up, whispering and laughing like they were in some secret world. I froze. They looked up at me like I was a ghost. Face went pale, and she immediately tried to cover herself, but it was too late. Jake looked guilty, but also like he didn't care. Eyes darted around, trying to come up with an excuse, but I didn't want excuses. I just saw red. That moment hit me like a freight train. I felt like I'd been hit in the chest with a baseball bat. My wife, the woman I loved, was cheating on me with the guy who was supposed to be helping us protect our assets. I never thought she'd stoop so low, playing me for a fool while she was screwing around with our lawyer. It felt like a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. I stood there speechless, staring at her, trying to process what I was seeing. The betrayal was so deep I didn't even know how to breathe properly. My mind was racing, trying to figure out what I did wrong, why she'd do this, and how I was going to fix it, or if I even could. But I knew one thing: this wasn't just about the affair anymore. It was about the fact that she'd lied and manipulated us from the start, and I was just now realizing I'd been played for a fool all along. After I saw what I saw that night, everything changed. I couldn't sleep, I could eat, and my mind kept circling back to the betrayal. Was still in bed, pretending like nothing had happened, but I knew better. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut, then dragged through the dirt. How could she do this? How could she lie to me for so long? We had our fights, sure, but I never thought she was capable of something this cold, this calculated. And Jake, our lawyer, was supposed to be on our side, protecting our interests. Instead, he was screwing my wife behind my back just as much as she was screwing him. The next day was a blur. I couldn't focus at work, kept replaying that scene over and over in my head. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her lying there, giggling with him like they shared some secret world I was never meant to know. I felt anger rising up, but also a crushing sense of betrayal and sadness. I had trusted with everything. She was supposed to be my partner, my best friend. And here she was, cheating on me with the guy who was supposed to help us protect what we had, not destroy it. I decided I needed to confront her again, get some answers, or maybe just hear her lie some more. When I got home, she was acting like everything was normal, like she hadn't just been caught in bed with our lawyer. I sat her down in the living room, trying to keep my voice steady. I saw you with Jake. I saw you in bed with him. How long has this been going on? She looked at me with her usual bitchy smirk, like she was amused that I was finally catching on. "Oh, come on," she said, flipping her hair. "You're overreacting. It's just sex, nothing serious. You're acting like I cheated on you with some stranger. Jake, been there for us, for me, when I needed him. It's not a big deal." She shrugged as if she was dismissing my feelings altogether, but I knew better. I saw the way she looked at him, the way she touched him. This wasn't just about sex. It was about her wanting to feel powerful in control, and she used Jake to do it. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Her lying, her dismissiveness, it all made me feel sick. I asked her how long she'd been sleeping with him, and she just rolled her eyes. Since before you even noticed, she snapped. You're so dense. I've been busy with work with the kids. Jake, been a shoulder to cry on, a friend. You're making this into some huge drama for nothing. Her words stung, but I knew better. She was lying, trying to make me doubt myself, trying to turn everything around on me. That night I sat alone in the dark, feeling like I'd been hit with a wrecking ball. The woman I married, the woman I trusted with my life, was a liar and a cheat. She'd been screwing Jake, our lawyer, lying about everything, and I was left wondering how long she'd been manipulating me, playing me like a fool. I kept asking myself, how could I have missed all the signs? Was I so blind? And then the anger started to take over. I realized that this wasn't just about the affair anymore. It was about the fact that she'd been using me, lying to me, and probably planning something even worse. I had to figure out what to do next, but one thing was clear. My world as I knew it was shattered, and I was furious. After that confrontation, I knew I couldn't just sit around and wait for her to spin more lies. I had to get to the bottom of what was really going on. Something about this whole situation felt bigger than just a fling. There was money involved, and I could sense it. Had always been good with money, but lately she'd been acting secretive about our finances. I started digging through our bank accounts, emails, anything I could find. That's when I stumbled on the real bombshell, an email thread between and Jake discussing a plan to manipulate our will and transfer assets into her name. It was a mess. Turns out she'd forged my signature on a new will, one that left her a huge chunk of everything. The property, the savings, everything. I couldn't believe it. All those years I worked hard, built this life with her, and she was planning to take it all. I felt like I'd been hit again, but this time with a sledgehammer. How deep did this go? How much had she already taken? The more I looked, the more I saw how carefully she'd planned it. She'd been playing me from the start, and Jake was right there with her, probably the mastermind behind it all. My mind raced. I needed to confront her again, but this time I wanted to have everything laid out in front of her. I didn't want her to spin her usual lies. I wanted evidence. I hired a private investigator just to confirm what I suspected. Over the next few days, he brought me proof, texts, emails, even recordings showing and Jake discussing the forged will, plans to transfer property, and how they'd keep me out of the loop. It was sickening. She played me for a fool, and now she was trying to steal everything I'd worked for. I felt betrayed on a level I never thought possible. I had trusted her with my life, my money, my future. And she had been screwing around with our lawyer, forging documents, lying through her teeth. The worst part, she was so brazen about it. She'd deny everything, call me paranoid, accuse me of overreacting. But I had the proof now. I had everything I needed to take her down, to fight back. The only question was, how far was she willing to go? How much more damage was she planning to do? That night I sat in my office, staring at the evidence spread out before me. My hands were trembling, but I knew I had to act. I couldn't let her get away with this. I was furious, furious at the lies, furious at the betrayal, furious at myself for not seeing it sooner. I realized I was at a crossroads. I could try to fix this, or I could fight her and take everything back. Honestly, the thought of losing everything was almost worse than the betrayal itself. But I was done being the victim. I was going to fight for what was mine, and I was going to make her pay for every lie, every betrayal. I just didn't know how yet. The next step was clear. I had to get legal. I couldn't just confront and expect her to admit everything. She was a manipulator, a liar, and she'd been planning this for months. I needed a professional to help me untangle her web of lies and protect what was left of my assets. I reached out to a lawyer I found through a friend, someone with a reputation for handling complex divorce and asset disputes. His name was Mark, and he knew exactly what to do. Mark listened carefully as I laid out everything, about the forged will, the affairs, the money, the lies. He was cold, professional, and didn't sugarcoat anything. His advice was straightforward. We needed to file for an emergency injunction to freeze the assets, and I had to gather every piece of evidence I had. I gave him everything, emails, recordings, the proof from the pie, and he promised to act fast. The moment I handed him those files, I felt a strange mix of relief and dread. Relief because finally I had someone fighting for me. Dread because I knew wouldn't go down without a fight. She was cunning and she had her lawyer, Jake, on her side. While we prepared the legal filings, I started planning my next move. I knew was planning to go to court, perhaps to claim she was the victim, that I was abusive or neglectful, anything to turn the tables. But I had the proof of the forged will, the emails, the recordings. I also found out that had been secretly transferring money into accounts she kept hidden from me. She was already trying to cover her tracks, but she underestimated how much I knew. I was furious at her, at Jake, but mostly at myself for not seeing it earlier. One night I decided to confront her again, this time with the evidence on hand. I sat her down, laid everything out on the table, and watched her face drain of color. Her usual bitchy smirk was gone, replaced with panic. I said, voice cold, I know everything. The forged will, the affair, the money transfers. You've been lying to me from the start, and you're not getting away with it. Her excuses started pouring out. She said she'd only done it because I was neglectful, that Jake was just a friend, that she never meant to hurt me. But I didn't buy it. Her lies were too obvious now. She started crying, pretending to be the victim, trying to twist everything around to make me look like the bad guy. But I was past caring about her tears. I knew she was planning her next move, trying to manipulate the situation. I told her I had all the evidence and I was filing the papers tomorrow. Her bitchy attitude shifted into outright rage. She screamed at me, called me a jealous idiot, and accused me of ruining her life. But I didn't care. I was done trusting her. This was about saving what little I had left, my property, my dignity, my sanity. I knew she'd fight dirty, but I was prepared to fight back with everything I had. It was war now, and I was ready to win. The day I filed those papers was the day I finally took control. Mark handled everything swiftly, served with the injunction, froze the accounts, and started the process of unraveling her scheme. She was furious, of course. Her calls and texts came in nonstop, filled with threats, accusations, and desperate pleas. She called me paranoid, obsessive, and said I was ruining her life. But I didn't care. I had the proof now, and I wasn't going to let her get away with stealing everything I'd worked for. The court hearings were intense. Showed up with her usual bitchy attitude, trying to act innocent, but it was clear she was panicked. Jake was there, too, trying to spin lies, claiming I was emotionally unstable and that was the victim. But Mark was relentless, presenting the evidence piece by piece. The forged signatures, the emails, the transfers, all of it. The judge looked at with suspicion and asked her some tough questions. She tried to deny everything, but the evidence was damning. While all this was happening, I was also preparing for the worst. I knew would do everything she could to sabotage me, maybe even try to turn the court against me. But I had enough proof to show her true colors. I also hired a private investigator to follow her around, just to see if she was up to anything else. Turns out, she was still meeting with Jake, still trying to manipulate the situation. She even tried to bribe a court clerk to get some documents altered, but the pie caught her in the act. That was the final nail in her coffin. As the days went by, it became clear that I was winning the battle. The judge ordered an investigation into the forged will, and assets were frozen pending further review. I felt a strange sense of relief mixed with rage. I had been played for a fool, but I was finally fighting back. The worst part was seeing her face. Her bitchy, manipulative expression turned to one of pure desperation. She knew she was losing everything, and her true colors showed more and more. She'd always been good at lying, but now she was cornered, and I could see her unraveling. In the quiet moments, I would sit alone and think about what I'd lost: my trust, my marriage, the security I thought I had. But I also realized I was finally free from her lies. I'd uncovered the truth, and I was going to make sure she paid for what she did. The pain was still there, but so was a sense of justice. I learned that sometimes the people closest to you can betray you the most. And when that happens, you have to fight for yourself, even if it means tearing everything apart to do it. I was done being the victim. Now I was fighting to rebuild what I could, piece by piece, and I knew I'd come out stronger on the other side. In the end, everything I thought I knew about was shattered. The court rulings came down in my favor. Her forged will was invalid and the assets she tried to steal were returned to me. But the damage was done. I couldn't look at her the same way anymore. That bitchy, manipulative woman I married was gone, replaced by someone who had lied and cheated her way to what she wanted. The house, the money, the life we built, all of it was tainted now, stained by her betrayal. I realized that trust, once broken, is nearly impossible to repair. I filed for divorce, and honestly, I didn't fight to keep her. I just wanted to get out, to get away from the wreckage. The kids were the hardest part. They didn't deserve to grow up in a house filled with lies and deception. I promised myself I'd do everything I could to shield them from the worst of it, even if it meant starting over completely. Looking back, I've learned a lot about human nature, about how some people will play you for a fool if they think they can get away with it. Greed and her need for control drove her to do terrible things. And Jake, he was just as much a part of it, a snake in the grass. I've come to see that money brings out the worst in people and that betrayal can come from the most unexpected places. Now I'm rebuilding my life. It's not easy. Trust is hard to regain and the scars of betrayal run deep. But I'm stronger for having survived it. I've learned to be more cautious, more aware, and more determined not to let anyone manipulate me again. I want other people to know that even when you're by someone you love, you can find a way out. You can fight back. And sometimes, it's better to walk away with what's left than to stay and let the lies destroy you. If there's one thing I want to leave with others who might be in a similar situation, it's this. Trust your instincts, gather your proof, and don't be afraid to fight for what's right. Because in the end, the truth will come out and you'll be better off for it. I may have lost my marriage, but I gained clarity, strength, and a new perspective on life. And honestly, that's worth more than anything money can buy.